Yeah, man.
Yeah, I got this visitor buck who's about to jump on me. The reason so he's been coming here for like 2, 3 years now, just
Yeah.
shows up. Um, but so on Thanksgiving, so we had 2 dogs. On Thanksgiving, our dog Rick got out. This woman in our neighborhood we've had problems with in the past, she is, an older woman with now she's down to 3 huskies, and unfortunately, she couldn't control her huskies, and they got Rick. Um, so that she was just out front, and this guy, was running down the street, and I guess since he knows us, he stopped by here to get away from her.
Oh,
So,
for real.
yeah, like he's been so the reason he's got the red thing is, a couple months ago, a homeless dude tried to grab him. He's literally 1 block over, like, I know the family. His owner is, like, a young kid who's in high school. So, he's in high school right now, so I can't take him back. Um, but yeah, like, a month or 2 ago, the homeless dude was not maliciously, he just thought he was a stray dog and tried to keep him as a companion, and that fiasco, he lost his collar. And then, yeah, like I said, this Thanksgiving, Rick got out. The Huskies attacked him. He unfortunately passed. Um, so I guess when he saw the Huskies, he just came running over here.
That's funny. So he's adopted you?
I guess. I mean, he's about to go home in an hour or so when his owner comes back from school. But but he's cool. He's been Buck's been here since the original studio. So he used to come in when the door was over here and just walk into sessions. And my 2 dogs, because he's not neutered, my 2 dogs would get mad, but they all hang, and at least he's safe.
Well, let's get into it, man. You before we started to chat, you said that you had some heavy shit going on. You've just said like my new studio or the second studio. I know you from the website. That's how we first started to talk, like your music, but like William J. Sullivan, just call me Bill, producer, mixer, engineer, writer, artist extraordinaire. Um, I got a ton of questions. Why don't you give me the really quick background and then we'll talk about the long background before we talk into why your Thanksgiving was messed up.
Yeah. So the short story is I started probably like around 4 or 5 years old in the 80s. I would learn pop songs. My dad had a baseball team that was sponsored by a bar. I'd go to the bar at night after his games. People would bet me I didn't know these pop songs, but I would watch the 7 or 8 songs on MTV back then, learn them. And that was like my introduction to music. And then once the school found out, they weren't too down with like a 5-year-old in a bar. So I got involved in the orchestral program. I met one of my like lifelong teachers, Paul Morris, there. I still talk to him to this day. So I was doing violin.
Mm.
Then I picked up guitar around 10 or 11. And when Mr. Morris saw that, he basically said, "You're the bass player for the jazz band now. Got practice at 5." So I had no choice. I was in jazz band after that. And around 11 or 12 is when I started playing in bands. 12 or 13 is when I started playing shows and did like my first demo. And then pretty much like once I got into high school is when I feel like it really took off. And that's when I was playing more serious bands. It was almost always metal or hardcore. Did a bunch of regional tours, Northeast US tours. Um, and then after high school in college, I kind of shifted gears from live world into studio world only because I tried out for the music program, didn't make it, did like liberal arts for a year, trying to find myself, and then came across the broadcasting telecommunications and mass media department at Temple, which is a very catchy name. And I found out that there was a recording program in there. And then once I hit that recording program, it was pretty much what you see now. And also where I met my best friend and like day one colleague, Noah Goldstein, was in the same program.
So take a step back. How did you first get into music? Was it through the school? Was it your parents? Like where was the moment?
It was mostly family. Partly like we'd have these cookouts on the weekends, my mom's side of the family, where everyone just go over to my grandparents, and that was the Puerto Rican side. So there was a lot of percussion, a lot of so I kind of found percussion too, just be like pots, pans, whatever, which I have boxes of to this day that I use. So that was like the earliest thing where I didn't even really know what I was doing. I was just having a good time. And then I'd say I started to like the gears started turning once I started doing those singing things after my dad's ball games,
Mhm.
where like I would sit after school, watch MTV, and like watch David Lee Roth. All right, he did this, whatever. Mostly, I'd watch like whatever Prince stuff would come on because this is like 88, 87, um, and I would just dissect that. I gravitated towards like Prince mostly because like there weren't as many people on TV and media and all. So it was just like this little brown guy with curly hair that played
Mhm.
every instrument and had an attitude that could fill a football stadium. And I was like, being 5'6" Latino, uh, that struck a chord with me.
That's sick. And then you mentioned jazz. I didn't even realize that there was like, music before the music, so to speak. Because when I first started to talk to you, it was hip hop, it was rap. And then all of a sudden there was like a metal side to it and a mixture of kind of like the extreme and the hip hop. So were you doing other stuff before, like jazz band, before you got into this stuff?
Yeah, like I was always into. So I grew up in the '80s. You heard like the birth of hip hop, the death of hair metal, and grunge was probably what I was like the spongiest taking in the
All right.
most. Um, so like I still caught like Racer X and stuff. Like that's a huge influence on my current guitar rig. Um, but then I also was into like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and stuff like that. So jazz band started when I was probably like 12-ish. I was still in middle school. Um, and it was, the state competitions, you go around all the other high schools, but it did teach me to sight read, get my chops up, and then just like be part of an ensemble and know my
Mhm.
place. Like, all right, the drummer is going to solo, you lay back, whatever. I always think of that. Oh man, it was that Val Kilmer spy movie where he's a spy and they're dressed up as a band and they go, "Everyone's solo," and everyone just plays something completely different at the same time. And like that was one of my earliest, like, oh, that's what you don't do. Like I figured it out. So those are the things like I was dissecting. And then like I got into metal. Like I said, I was always into metal. But I started playing out like local shows when I was around 12 or 13. We didn't have a drummer. We had my drum machine that's right over here to this day, um, which did not help our vibe. Like in metal and hardcore scene in Philadelphia, like it was tough music. Everyone looked tough, and then you got these like weird black metal goth kids coming out. Like, what the hell is this? So, but then again, like it was a different time. I didn't have as much. I didn't know exactly what was going on in Norway and Sweden and all that deal. And then the more I listened to like black metal, like I just mentioned, and then the more I read about it, I was like, oh, these dudes really are killing people. And I was like, I'm gonna back off of this one a little bit. So I got a little out of black metal. Like I'll still listen to some of it today, but for the most part, it was very focused on like hardcore death metal, and then just obscure weird shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kinda grew up around the same times, and for me, like, I mean, yes, I grew up on a whole bunch of music from my family, jazz, blues, classical, and then classic rock through my dad, whatever was on the radio, mainstream pop. I discovered hip hop first, and then alternative, and then grunge kinda, like, happened at the same time. But isn't it fascinating that around the same time as, you and I are discovering these new genres, we start to see like, Aerosmith and Run DMC doing the first ever rock hip hop collab. Then we got like soundtracks like Judgment Night came out. I don't know if you ever heard the Judgment Night soundtrack. Like that was a
Judgment
huge
Night. Yeah, I don't know if if you subliminally remember this, but Judgment Night was huge for me too. And that was when I realized because I always liked. the aggressiveness and the power. Like you go to a show, like in Philadelphia, if you went to a show, like you had a good chance of getting your ass beat. So you also had to like enjoy the music, but look out and be tough. Like if you did get hit, you see someone go down, help them
Oh,
out,
dude,
whatever.
you're,
So I did want to bring that sense of community and that aggression into whatever I was doing. Having said that, growing up mixed and then also being into rock and hip hop, like I love the grooves and the cadences of hip hop. How some of it related to like, I mean, a lot of it related to African and Latin culture. And I was just always just like, how do you put these together? Because every like it was never done well. And when Judgment Night came out to me, I was like, holy shit, this is Slayer and Ice T. Like this is fucking crazy. Um, I still love it. Maybe some people would say it didn't age as well as it should have, but like that kind of was the catalyst of why I got into bands like Candiria. Like I feel like they're one of the most successful like crossover rap hardcore bands. Groups like Cypher, that are out of Long Island, New York. And then even with those bands, like the difference between metal and black metal and all that was like what they were saying actually meant something to the community, which meant even more to me. I was like, oh, so you can have the heaviness, you can have the rhythm, but you can also have a message. It doesn't have to just be about like death and destruction and all this shit. Um, Fast forward like 20 years later, and I'm working with Paris, Texas, who also successfully combined rock and hip hop, and they're signed to American, which put out Judgment Night, which so it came to like a whole 360 for me where I was like, they didn't even realize it. They're like, yeah, like we're an American publishing or whatever. I was like, holy shit, like Judgment Night was on American. Like Judgment Night, like that crossover record. I was like, yes. I was like, that was what was it, like for me. I love that record.
yeah, me too. That's super cool. I didn't realize that that was, like, so topical right now considering that single with Paris, Texas just dropped. I remember buying the CD and the jewel case. 'Cause jewel cases were always kinda bland, and then all of a sudden, like, I think it was Alice in Chains dropped, like, their last album before Lane died or around the time he died, and it was, like, first time I had a jewel case that was not clear. It was, like,
Right.
neon orange or green, whatever it was, but then the Judgment Night one was clear, but it had this, like, bullet hole or, like, kinda like splotch of blood or something on one of the corners. I was like, "Oh my god, that's so
Yeah.
cool." This is a tiny little detail, but that time was so rad because I feel like they were really putting a lot of effort into soundtracks. I mean, like, the Crow soundtrack was huge for me. There's
Another
a
one.
bunch of
Yeah.
other alt and indie ones. I mean, even some of the hip hop, related, like Boys to Men sorry, Boys in the Hood, White Man Can't Jump. Some of these, soundtracks were so incredible. Juice, the list goes
Yeah.
on. Uh, and then I remember also discovering artists who were kind of they wouldn't say they were crossing over, but they were stepping shit up. Like when I first started to get into rap, into hip hop, it was definitely a lot more of the chill stuff. Dream Warriors, Fu-Schnickens, Rex and Effects, Naughty by Nature. Um, and then all of a sudden Onyx comes out and I'm like,
Back the fuck
whoa,
up. Yep.
this is heavy. Like these guys are mad. What's going on?
Yeah.
Uh, it was really cool. So, taking a step back, you're in jazz band, you discover metal, you're playing guitar, you're learning instruments, you're singing. How did you become such a, like, well-established, producer?
I don't know. No, no, honestly, like, and I'm gonna keep taking it back to Philadelphia. Just like the way I was raised and all, it was just like, and I think we're seeing it a lot in the media is like life isn't always fair. If you want something, you got to go get it. And that's always been the case. But like, I was just relentless, like on tour when you're in an indie band, like you're living on maybe 6 people living off of like $30 a day or whatever. You're pinching whatever you can off of the salad bar at truck stops. And like, I mean, your transmission would go out in the middle of nowhere in the wintertime, no lights. And there's just all these things that like a logical, normal person would be like, you know what, fuck this. Like, I'm going home, whatever. And it just wasn't an option for me. I would just do all these backbreaking tours. And then Once I got into college and I kind of like saw like, oh, all the stuff I've been doing, I could apply it to the studio just because like I was never the only time I was in the studio was when I was the artist. I never got to look at it from the other side of the glass. Um, and then I just, I played so many different instruments wherever there was a hole that needed to get filled. It was just like, all right, yeah, like I'll do it. It didn't matter what the pay was, whatever. The first internship I got was at this place called Third Story Recording, and it was a pretty rough neighborhood, 55th and Walnut. It was an old Rambler car factory, so the driveway was like this wide, and I had a Bonneville at the time, which was a very wide car. You would go up on a it was the ramp that the cars would come off of at the factory is what the parking lot was when I was working there.
Oh, that's
So
wild.
it was pretty wild. Very rough clientele at the time. So you just had to like learn to go with the flow. Like these are like people that are in the hood doing hood shit, and whatever money they got scraped together, they would come to the studio and do stuff. I'm pretty sure that the assistant before me was murdered. Um, so it was like, it was a neighborhood you had to watch your ass in. And again, most logical people would be like, I'm not going to put my life on the line for music.
Mm,
But it didn't even like it that didn't even like cross my mind. Alls I saw was like, there's an opportunity with a real studio. Like I think Meshuggah did some like off stuff there when they were like in '98 when they were on tour. Dead
cool.
Milkmen recorded there. So it was like stuff had happened there. It was just I got there a little too late. Um and I don't think I lasted very long there. It was only like a couple months until another studio scooped me up, which was Studio 4 in Conshohocken, ran by Phil Niccolo. And Phil was one of the Butcher Brothers. They did, I guess grunge wise, they did, oh my God, what was that record that they did? Well, they did that Anthrax. They did an Anthrax record at Studio 4, and they did another huge rock record. I don't know why I'm blanking on it. But
It'll
anyway,
it'll come to you, but Studio 4, that's the one in Philadelphia?
yeah, so it originated in Philly, and then they got rid of that building and moved out to Conshohocken, but kept the same name.
Okay.
And that was like probably the first proper studio I got to work out of. I signed up there as an intern with my best friend Noah. Um, like one of my first gigs was I think it was Bob Dylan, and like
Wow.
yeah, it was like literally like a week in or 2 weeks in. I worked at a Ruby Tuesday, and I was like, "I'm calling out." I told my manager, and he's like, "Ah, dude, like, you're really screwing me." It was this guy, Marty Shally. I was like, "I'm going to record Bob Dylan." And he's like, "All right, we'll figure it out." Like, so even like when the people, like, that's the thing. Like, I was serving tables, going to college, teaching at Temple, and all playing shows and working in a studio. I don't know how I did that much in one day. I wish I still could,
Mm,
but like, I wanted it. And that was the thing. It's like you're gonna do stuff that is so above and beyond. Like if you're doing this for money, this is not it. Like there will be times where money is awesome and through the roof. And then there's times that it's not. So you got to be able to take the good with the bad. And if you're only in it for the good, then I don't know. Good luck.
yeah, I feel you. I mean, so many of my guests have said the same thing, specifically about the money. Like, if you're doing music for money, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Do something else. That doesn't mean the
Yeah.
money isn't there or can't be there, but that's not the goal with creation, with art.
Nah.
One of the things with you that, struck me from day one and has held through until present is just how real you are. You're authentic. That's an important part of, I think, human connection. And a lot of the guests, I should say, all the guests that I've had so far. Um, how do you stay true to yourself? How have you maintained you, considering all the stuff you've done, the people you've worked with? How do you, not give a fuck about the highs, the lows, the collabs?
Honest, like coming right back to Philly again. Like, yeah, like there was just so many things that you would do in Philadelphia that were so above and beyond, or at least for me, going in the hardcore scene, like, no venues would allow us to play. So we had to do our own venues, do our own security, do our own sound. And now there are companies like what's his name? Justin Agnew in Philly doing huge shows at the Electric Factory or whatever it's called now. R5 Productions is still going out there, and these were like little like these DIY things. Like the church in Philly is still a huge, the First Unitarian, still a huge venue that like for whatever reason doesn't have air conditioner to this day. So you're sweating your ass off just like you were back in the day. And you do. I have definitely lost myself here and there where you're feeling yourself a little too big.
Mhm.
Like for 15 years straight, I've been next to some of the biggest names in the world, and there was a dichotomy where I'd like go work in this mansion, have this like crazy spread of food, especially like being vegan or like I'm the only vegan in the room, so I know my food's being prepared by this like crazy chef specifically for me, and then I'm coming back to Long Beach to my and I love my house, but at the time we were in just like a beach house that, it ain't like one room in the mansion is twice the size of my entire house.
Yeah.
I remember coming back from a tour, came off tour of Cudi, and like within minutes of getting into the neighborhood, they're like, I got caught in a police chase. I get home, cab drops me off, and then this is at the other house when we live down the street. My neighbor calls me, calm as anything, and telling me like, "Oh, Eric just got stabbed. Can you take me over to pick him up?" And I was like, "What?" Like this, I haven't been home for 10 minutes, so it quickly went from five-star hotels on the route
Yeah.
to my son's been stabbed. Can you go take me to help him? So what and especially now that the speed of life is so fast, I feel just like if it's gonna snap you right back into where you gotta be. Like I said, on Thanksgiving, my dog passed. Um, and I was very grateful that I got to work here, but with him while, I took the time to build this place, but it was just like another thing where it's like, oh, I did XYZ and then he passed. You're still human though.
Yeah.
Um, So,
I I
and like that's just the most recent example of it. These things are going to keep coming up. If this is your career, it's not going to just happen once and it's over. It's like, unfortunately, that's going to happen multiple times in your life, and you're going to have to make a decision: am I going to go to the event or go with my career?
yeah. I think you said something really key there, which is gratitude, right? Like it sounds like you're very grateful for what you have, who you are, where you've come. I mean, I don't know if you've watched the the latest Diddy documentary on Netflix yet. I just binged it with my girlfriend in a couple days time. Um, Not gonna get into my personal feelings about the dude, but, the lesson here is no matter how high you climb, you can still fall, right? Like,
Yeah.
no one's impervious to the ups and downs of life, and I think that if you maintain gratitude, it's easier to go through that roller coaster. You also mentioned church, like, is faith part of who you are?
I would say like religion and faith, especially coming from like the metal background, was part of like who I am. But my mother's Eucharistic minister; she's very religious. I went through all the sacraments, so I've done all that. And when I was in college, I had to study. I think it was called the class was race and religion,
Mm,
and it just showed different religious backgrounds from different parts of the world, and in my personal opinion, what it boiled down to after reading, like I didn't read like all the Quran or all the Bible, but whatever I was assigned. And it just seems like the same story with different characters, which, isn't, I'm not trying to offend anyone by saying that, but more so like we're all doing the same thing and just we have different names for it.
yeah,
And, the more people that you lose and the people that you meet, like it starts making sense. Like, you're gonna lose if you have grandparents, most likely you're gonna lose them. And that was one of the first when I was around 27, I started losing a lot of family members that were around that age, the same time. And that's when I started losing part of myself. When you're saying, how do you stay so grounded? I was just very angry, very sad. Um, Everything, it was just like there was no in between. I was either like binging And like now I realize it was just like to remove myself from the situation. At the time, I thought I was partying, having a great time.
Yeah.
Um, so I made it through it though. And that's the good thing is that, like, and everyone has the 27 club. I was aware of it before, even participating in extracurricular activities, but like 27 was always that age that like you're told like you're either going to make it or not.
Yeah.
Um, and some of my friends didn't make it. Some of them did. I was one that did. And it's stuff like that, looking back on it after it's done to them, like, and realize like, holy shit, like I survived and these people didn't. Like that's also, and like the fact that I make a living playing music, like, like I don't do it. Like I am not necessary in this world. There's not like no one needs the producer. Like you need the surgeon and all, but like I've prospered better than some people with 9 to 5s just by playing music. So that's like more so the whole thing about grounding, gratitude, and then faith. Like I do believe there's something else out there.
Yeah.
I
I
like
mean,
what it is it? I couldn't tell you. Like again, I play music. So hopefully, and then if we really start getting into it, you can argue the fact that everything's down to vibration, music vibration, faith could be vibration, whatever's out there could be vibration, the vibration of the planet, and ohms and all that. That's, we could keep going, but even it all has its place and it all adds up. Every little thing adds up. So, and I respect what my parents' views are on religion. And, one of my mentors, Rob Fraboni, has a different outlook on things, but he's also very spiritual. So, like,
yeah,
I respect that as well. And going back to your grounded question, I think that's how I stay grounded. It's just you take these little bits and pieces of people you meet along the way. And I used to make this analogy for the studio or production, like, "Oh, I took this guy's technique," or but in reality, it's life. It's just
yeah,
like, this is how someone got through their struggle. I'm gonna try that. Or like, uh, just like whatever it is, I just take every little bit that makes sense to me, and like, if it works, it works. And then just try and redistribute those bits out to people that wanna listen.
100%. I love that. It's something that I talk about often. Don't have, uh, an opinion on things. Don't be like, pro this, anti that, whatever. I'm not saying don't support causes, but approach life with positions.
Yeah,
Because every single day you're gonna talk to someone, meet someone, read something, see something, and it's gonna shift your position, like, fractionally, maybe large, when it comes to religion, whatever. Keep an open
yeah,
mind because you never know when you're gonna talk to Bill and he's gonna say something, be like, "Oh, fuck, I never thought about it that way."
yeah.
And then boop, my mindset is now shifted on that one thing, a few percentage in another direction.
Yeah, and I think that's important not only with people, but like especially now with media, which is why I'm extra hyped that you're doing more stuff. Is that
Yeah.
our current day media, and this is also part of what I went to school for, but like media is not doing stuff in our favor right now. I feel like,
Mm,
so you need that like person to person connection or these communities to like, all right, like I'll watch the news. Am I going to believe it? I don't know. I gotta see what's on the news today.
mhm,
But I know what I feel about who I feel and, like, what's being portrayed in the media. I mean, for example, when all this, Israel or Iran stuff was happening, like, I was talking to people in both places at the same time, and they're both saying the same thing. So it's like their media is doing the same shit that our media is doing to us, and it's just like, they're the enemy, go against them, pro us. It's like we're all the same people, just
yeah.
in different places, like we're not the enemy. So,
I feel
it's
like
just
I
it's
feel
it's
like
just interesting.
I agree with you. I feel like there's, like, this, shift of consciousness that's happening across the world. I think people are in many ways getting fed up with technology. They're getting fed up with the phones. They're getting fed up with the algorithms, the media, being forced things, being, told what to think as opposed to how to think. And you're seeing a lot more long form content, podcasts, interviews, etc., that are being consumed more than ever. And it's because people like us, we want to connect. We
Mhm.
want to have a deeper, more meaningful, more spiritual connection. And then the conversations we have, other people latch onto because they get to then third party view into that, feel like they're being a part of it, hopefully learn something, grow. And with technology, it's easier to do now. Before you had to go to the pub, you had to, hang out with family, friends, and sit down and do that. Now I can, ring Bill miles away and just say like,
Yeah.
"Yo, let's catch up, man. Let's have this conversation. Let's talk about our paths and what we've done and like how we handle all this stuff."
Yeah.
I think it's gonna.
Absolutely.
I think it'll lead to good. I think it's going to lead to positive change for society as a whole.
I think so too, only because, like I said, like our direct media is feeding us our news and all that deal. But then, like, you just have people on Instagram or whatever, or even us just on FaceTime or whatever,
Yeah.
talking like that's not really what's happening over here. This is what's happening. So like, there's that analogy that the world just keeps getting smaller the more
Uh-huh.
technology evolves. So, I'm hoping that, and not just with political media, but like with all media, that things can spread out a little and maybe get like, that's why I love Bandcamp. Like, it's direct to consumer. I usually like, if I go on iTunes right now or Spotify or Apple Music, I'm gonna hear the same 30 songs I've heard for the past 2 months. If I go to Bandcamp, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna hear. It's gonna be a folk singer, a death metal song, a classical piece, like, it's a wild card.
Yeah.
And it's like, I love that because I'm curious, and the fact that when I put money towards that, like, I'm giving it directly, almost directly to the artist. They're getting the majority of it, and I get to keep that now.
Mhm.
Whereas, like, all these other companies, it's just like, you're leasing that. Like, you don't have that song. It's on your phone for now until we decide to take it away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when did all the and it's that incrementalness. Like, it was just a slow change over time, and, like, now we're the frog boiling in the pot of water.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. The lease thing is a fascinating idea because even phones, right? Like now people are like, "Oh my god, I can have a new phone every 6 months. It's super rad. I don't have to worry about it." But like, what happens if all of a sudden the plans change, or what happens if they're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you don't own it, and you didn't read the fine print, and we're gonna shut
Yeah.
off these parts of your phone." I like owning things outright.
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
but it's not even about like who has it right, who has it wrong. I think the thing that it matters most when it comes to this format is just having discussed in the first place.
Yeah.
Like in university, I remember being a philosophy minor, having a couple professors, one specifically, Professor Joseph Gonda, who just happens to have the last name as me or same last name. Um, and he was saying, like, dude, it's not about winning the argument. It's not about like proving the other person wrong or right or proving yourself wrong or right. It's about having discussed in the first place. That is the most important part of this whole thing, which ironically, as I'm saying that out loud, I'm thinking of Rick Rubin, where it's like, it's not about the outcome of the song. It's about making the song. It's about being
Yeah.
in the moment, and that's how we get better as individuals and a society by saying like, well, Bill, I don't fucking agree with half of what you're saying, but I'm here having that conversation with you because I want to change my position on these things.
Yeah. And I feel like the tolerance for that is like almost non-existent anymore. Like, again, like I remember when I was in college or like at shows, like, disagree with like half the people in the room, but you're all still there. You're all still like going back and forth. And it wasn't so much like I'm right, you're wrong. It
Mm,
was more of like, this is how I see things, this is how you see things. And it was just progress. It
yeah,
wasn't good, bad, right, wrong. It was just like moving forward together. And like, that's fine. Like, if you voted for this guy and I voted for this guy, like, that's what we believe in, but we're still pushing together, like, still pushing forward together.
yeah,
Yeah, and I just don't agree with like all this. Like, how people are so married to political parties now, and like, this guy's gonna change the world, and Trump's the worst. Like, man, what about all of the Library of Congress and the House of Representatives, like, that really have the power? Like, they're pretty shitty too. Um, so,
yeah,
and then bringing it back to conversation, I mean, just like conversation brings knowledge, and then that helps get rid of fear. Like, you don't fear things you don't, you only fear things you don't know.
yeah.
Um, you know? So, like, and that could be a person, a job, a subject, just like jump in, you know? And if you can't jump in, put your toes in, see if you like it.
I mean, embrace the unknown. That's such an amazing segue into like more of your background, right? Embrace the unknown. If you don't know how to produce, the only way you're going to learn how to produce is to be in front of a board and someone says, okay, make this song shine. So, like, talk to me about your
Yeah.
experience going from here's a board to, oh, Bob Dylan's coming in.
Well, that particular session, I think I still would have been like, "Uh-oh," but not like well, for, like, the Dylan session to show the progress was, like that was probably one of the nicer studios I got to work in for a longer amount of time,
Yeah.
because it was, like, the end of that era of, like, the big studio era, and even that studio got chopped in half, and they moved the live room from the 1st floor down to, like, the basement, but going from that, like, wide-eyed, like, "Holy shit, I'm in it," to kinda grabbing the reins was one guy, going back to Philadelphia again, this guy, Bill Bells, he did live sound. He had this company, Pleasant Valley Audio. His nickname was Bill Yells because he had 0 patience. Um, didn't really like a lot of people from what I gathered. Um, for whatever reason, I got in there and he liked me. My nickname became Junior, and just people that knew Bill were like, "Man, Maze, like you're sticking in there."
Yeah.
But what that guy taught me was like, A, I was terrified of him. I was like, "Man, if I fuck up, this guy's gonna like backhand me." Um, but that got my chops up, and, like, when I would do something wrong, he didn't sugarcoat anything. Like, I remember very specifically, we had a Y cable for a compressor, I plugged it in backwards, and he was just like, "Wrong, Junior," and I just knew what that meant, and just whoop, and we're good to go. And he showed me just like, yo, when you're in the shit, and we were doing outdoor shows, outdoor amphitheater shows with kind of like regional acts. A lot of the regional acts would get drunk between sound check and the show. So things would go haywire right before showtime all the time. And but working with him, he just showed me like keep your cool, act professional. And just do your job to the best of your ability. And if you don't know how to do something, find someone that does or figure it out quick.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, like that was a huge turning point for me, even though like I only worked there, I didn't work there very long before moving to New York. But just like, yeah, like keeping your cool in front of that guy and then keeping your cool at third story where like you didn't know who was coming in the door were major parts. And then, like, if you just look like you know what you're doing, like, people are gonna trust you, whether you believe it or like, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll be the first one to say, like, my first couple sessions, I was probably like, yeah, sure, whatever." Like, I do remember recording someone with the diaphragm faced the wrong way. Um, but I salvaged the recording and, like, no one found out, no one said anything, and it worked out in the end. So just like yeah, just like jump into it. Like when this console sitting next to me came out, it was probably like $500,000. And it was like the most advanced thing in 1991. But I wanted to save it. I don't know. I couldn't tell you how to fix this thing, but I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's that's just kind of how it is. Like, like I always had fun taking things apart and like, a lot of times they didn't go back together the right way, but
Uh,
like that knowledge just led up to, like, now I can rip apart a guitar, fix something, throw it back together, and hit stage in 10, 15 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Optics and confidence are so important. I mean, I remember years ago, probably 20 years ago at this point, I was with a buddy, who was with Roadrunner Records and then now currently Warner Records, and we were doing some stuff. They said, "Meet me backstage." I think I was going for an interview with an artist, and, I was nervous. I was young. I was like, like, I don't know where to go and are they gonna let me in? I don't have my pass yet, blah, blah, blah. He said, dude, if you look like you're supposed to be backstage, if you act like you're supposed to be backstage, no one is gonna even ask why you're backstage. And
Yeah.
that advice was so true. And I now tell that to everyone because in life, like you said, if you have the confidence and you think if you act like you're supposed to be doing something, if you're the expert, people just naturally trust you.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you really wanna do it, you're gonna wanna know how to do it, so you're gonna figure it out, man, like,
Exactly.
you know, 12-year-old Bill would not be able to wire this room up, but, 42-year-old Bill with a dog on his lap, it's a whole different question. I could
We
easily do it.
figured it out.
Yeah. Alright, Buck, you gotta go down, I'm sorry, man.
You mentioned Kid Cudi, you mentioned Paris, Texas, there's Phoebe Bridges, there's Denzel Curry, Selena Gomez, I believe Kanye as well, like, you've done a lot of cool shit, man, talk to me about that arc, talk to me about some of the cool experiences. Is this all production work or is it other stuff too?
It's basically like all there was like some video work too, but it was like almost all music or audio related. And
Mhm,
it's funny you said the ARC. So like the team I'm part of a production team called ARC. It's me, my best friend Noah, I've mentioned a couple times, and 12 other producers. And like the theory between that with that whole thing was all of us have done something. We all had our niche. And again, like we didn't want to be like working for like, the major labels, whatever, like, we wanna do it on our own. So between the 14 of us, like, we can pretty much handle, like, anything you throw at us. Like, if I can't do something, Yuli can do a string arrangement. If Noah can't do something, maybe Simon could do drums or, like, or, like, our guy, didn't mean to wear this today, but Anthro, who has saved the drums, like, he does great drums if, like, mine aren't cutting it. So and again, it was all about communication and just talking and sharing ideas. So
mhm,
me and Noah have kind of been through it. I think we met when we were 19 at Temple University in the in the music in the broadcasting telecommunications department,
okay,
um, doing engineering, and we both had, like, that Philadelphia work ethic. We both had, like, we just wanted to do it. He came from a more hip hop background. I came from the more rock side of things. We both worked at Third Story, both worked at Studio 4, um, and just, like, kinda bouncing off each other, me more so than him. Uh and him just being like, because he worked at Electric Lady, so everyone would just always come through Electric Lady. He wouldn't be able to come home sometimes, so me and his now wife, Steph, would drop off, like, clothes or food or whatever. Um, my studio was on 45th, so even though we lived in Queens, I would usually, be able to just, like, hop on the train, come over Williamsburg Bridge, drop some stuff off for him, and then go uptown. And then just from doing that, like, you'd meet whoever at the studio, this, that, or the other. And then the guys in Good Music brought Noah on, and he transitioned from Electric Lady to basically being like Kanye's full-time guy. And through that, like I would just pop in every now and then. So I worked at this post-production place on 45th. Um, and then just like people would just like start trusting me with stuff. Like again, like if you look like you belong there, like people would just be like, hey, can you do this? And that's what I was doing. So on Watch the Throne, I was just running between all the hotel rooms we had booked, making sure like you got speakers, you got a mic you need, you got interface, whatever. And then as time would go on, uh, no one, no one wanted to deal with the gear. So like when the tractor trailers roll up, it's like 112 pound 5'6" me moving in like all of our shit, which was like so like people would see me like going to these huge hotels with these like crazy rack cases of like it's clearly gear and just being like, "Yo, who the fuck is this guy?" Um, and I would just set up, da, 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 do my thing, and then like, who knows if it was like early in the morning, I'd take a nap, go back uptown, do more post production gigs. And then when the post production stuff kind of stopped was when I got a call from Noah. I was at an ASCAP meeting, and I just sit down with my friend Chris Hagen, who also did post production, and he was like, "Yo, you want to work with Cudi?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. When?" He's like, "Right now." And I was like, "Oh, shit. All right." I literally like, and that's how I started working with Cudi. I dropped everything I was doing right now. I just told Chris, I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna go do this." Worked with him for like a week straight, like literally a week. I think we did like a couple days, and then like took a break, and then a couple more days. Um, and that was kind of the start of it.
mhm.
Just jumping in and just like doing stuff that like people not so much didn't want to do, but like not a lot of people were just gonna like stop what they're doing and run. And that's something else I learned was like, if you're readily available, like you'll get the gig whether you're the better person or not. Like,
Yeah.
so I just started making myself available. And like living in New York when everyone was based in New York, it was super easy because I could just hop on my bike and just zip around the city. Like, and I could do in New York, it was cool because everything's like in this 9 mile radius. You can do like 2 to 3 sessions a day. Whereas in California, because everything's so spread out, you get like 1, 2 sessions if you're really lucky. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I got into the fold with all them. And then just any opportunity that came, I would just be like, yeah, dude, I'll do it. Like, oh, you want to play guitar on this? Yeah, sure. You want to play drums on this? Sure.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I've never
that's
said no.
it's so important with life to, like, take risks, right? Nothing ventured, nothing gained, and, the
Yeah.
more opportunity you create for yourself, the more risks you take, the more opportunity you create for yourself. It's just it happens
Yeah.
naturally. It's just a law of numbers at that point. You mentioned
Yeah, and I
guitar.
don't know if I said, but to like bring it back was like
Yeah.
I have Dare to Fail tattooed across my chest, and that was like the whole thing. It's like if you don't try stuff, if you're afraid of failing, like you're never gonna do anything, and then you're just gonna be stuck in your hometown doing some stuff that you probably don't want to do. So like that was a big thing.
So you mentioned that tattoo. This was one of the questions that I wanted to talk about was mindset. I feel this is so important for me to understand different, tips and tricks. You said the Philly work ethic. There's a little bit of spirituality or religion, God peppered in there. What's the combination? Like, what is the vibe that just makes you go and take the risks? Where did that start?
Started like I mean, watching MTV and like seeing like whoa, like like those early Michael Jackson videos and stuff from when we were growing up, and like Beatles videos, like that was mind blowing to me. I was like, people, that many people are going crazy. And it's like, there's only 4 people on the stage. Like, what? Um, so that kind of like is what got me into it. And then the more I started getting into like the musical things, and this is why I kind of got into metal, is like I just wanted to like take something apart and see how it works. Like I was just
Mm,
curious. And I think that's why I gravitated towards metal because there was so much technicality involved that like, rock and grunge didn't really have. Um, but like, yeah, basically just like if something interests me, like now, like I just built this place, well, finished building this place in July, but I've always wanted to build a studio and I built things to a degree, but just something that's challenging and that can kind of give back. Like doing like instrument repairs and stuff, like it just kind of came along with the territory. Like there's broken instruments here. What are you gonna do with them? I'll make something out of them, whatever.
yeah.
Um, so, and through that, you can argue that that's part of DIY culture too, is just like using what is at your means.
Mhm.
And I think just that natural curiosity and that urge to just do stuff is another reason why, like, I get called in to do things. Like me and Noah made these crazy cases that we made for travel. Um, it was total ball buster situation, but we wanted to be able to roll into a place with 3 cases, set them up, take the lids off, plug them in, and start working. Um, Instead of get them pre's,
Yeah.
microphones, whatever. And in a couple months, we designed these cases, and I could see them in some old Kanye videos, but it's just like literally 3 cases where like it was like our battle stations, and like Kanye had his, Noah had his, and then myself or whoever was doing second or assistant work had their own case. Um, and like that was something that like it was funny. Like people would be like, "Yo, where'd you get these cases at? We got to get some of these. We just made them, man." Like and that's kind of like what I do. Like with everything, it's just like if it doesn't exist, I'm just gonna make it.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you just have to figure stuff out on the way. I mean, I remember when I first said, "Okay, I'm not gonna go back to any day jobs. I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. I'm taking the plunge. I'm gonna expand V13 Media, the website, the magazine into something bigger." I called up my business partner, Lance, and well, not business partner at the time, but like buddy and writer extraordinaire. And I'm like, "Yo, dude, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think?" He's like, "I'm in." And then
Yeah,
I said, "Where do we start?" He's like, "I don't know, where do we start?" I said, "I don't know, let's just start." And that's where we start. And fast forward 3 years, we got this company, we got employees, we're helping artists around the world, they got a podcast, and there's been, more expansion since. And I got listening, or sorry, thinking back to that, none of it really mattered. All that mattered was the idea and the initiative, and then just to keep going. I mean,
yeah,
we were working something in our storefront today, like some of our bundles and packages, and I was laughing, saying like, "Yo, this is like the 6th or 7th iteration of this thing." And it was like a PDF, and then it was like this, and then it was a website, and then we moved it to the store, and the copy keeps changing. That's how you do it. You just keep
yeah,
improving and getting better and growing and adding more and learning and refining and tweaking. So that's what you're doing.
exactly.
That's the
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
that easy.
that's basically like, I mean, you can kind of put that into any aspect, whether it's like self-improvement, an instrument, you just like
Mm,
every day, man, like you just chip at a little and get your 10,000 hours and then just do what feels good.
yeah,
I think that's like the main thing. And that's like a main overarching thing is that just do what feels good. Like help other people or whatever. Just like, it was just, I always want to do more. And then when I see like, I don't know, it's LA. So there's a lot of like, I'm trying to be as nice as possible. But, it's like you come to LA to work and everyone knows that. So just there's a particular type of person out there that just kind of like is successful, but they're just like, what are you doing? What do you want? Like, what do you, and it's, I respect that. I get it. But that's just not like, I'd rather be in a community where, maybe we're not as successful, but we're way more tight knit.
yeah.
And like, I know my neighbor, whatever.
Well, that goes back to the authenticity we're talking about. You're just being real, you're being yourself, you like to roll up your sleeves and get in there, and you wanna do genuine work with genuine results. Um, I got 2 questions,
Hmm.
left, and, because, like I said earlier, I'm trying to always learn more and shift my, position. So, you mentioned your upbringing, the guitar, the singing, everything, and now you're doing so much stuff around production. Is it normal that producers start as musicians and then shift into production, or is it like chicken egg where it's 50-50? What do you think?
I guess it could be chicken egg kind of thing, just because like I looked at it too as like a more logical thing. When I was a kid, I just, I'm gonna be a rock
Mm,
star. Just be it. And then you quickly learn like, me it's a little tougher than it seems. So I was like, all right, like who's next in line that's always working in this industry? And it's like, all right, the band or like the session players, that's cool, but they could get burned out too. And then you get to like the studio personnel or the equipment manufacturers. Those people are always in business, whether like the
yeah,
companies are going out of business or people are changing companies. Like it's the same people that are building things. Like I said, like Rupert Neve built Neve, but
yeah.
he also built Amec and Focusrite and all this stuff. So, um, I guess it's probably 50-50. But for me in particular, it was just like I saw that I wasn't gonna last burning the candle at both ends. Like I was also partying my balls off. Um, and it was just like even at that point, I was like, I can't do like 18-hour days partying, working, and playing. Um, and plus, like that's not good for anyone because you're gonna be in a mood, you're in altered mind state, so you could
Yeah.
be rude to someone or whatever. Whereas now it's just like I built this place just so that people could come over. Like honestly, that's why like it doesn't matter if we make music because like the music will come out at some point. It's just about finding what makes you feel right in your own skin and again just like helping push that peanut up the hill. So yeah, so like for me, I guess I came in as from an artist perspective, and because of that, I'm always trying to cater to the artist. Like,
Okay.
oh, if I was in this situation, I'd want this, or and
Mm,
that's I think why I also was a good engineer. Just like, dude, if I'm walking into a room and I'm paying X amount of money, I want this. So I'd set the rooms up like that. You know, and I never had a complaint or anything, like, so I feel like I
Anticipating
did the right thing.
anticipating the artist's needs and stuff like that.
Yeah, just think about, all right, what, like I always say, like, hope for the best, plan for the worst. Like, what could
Yeah,
go wrong? Let's
yeah,
have plans in place for all that, but let's hope for a good day. And if something
100%.
does go wrong, we got these safety nets back here. Cool. Um,
The difference between jumping in an Uber versus an Uber that has the gum and the charger and the water, like, you might not care about any of that stuff, but the time that you do care about it, at least is there.
there, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I would have it down to like, I did, I'd have chargers. We called it, my old assistant called it the dipping station, where we'd wash the backwood leaves. Like, I literally had every aspect down so that whoever the artist is could come in, they had their seating area and they
Mm,
could just chill if they wanted to, or if they felt inspired, they didn't have to say, turn this on, do this. They could just start playing and I was getting it. Um, you know, and that's part of just like making someone feel good about themselves and natural and just like erasing any of the barriers that could go up for creativity or just like throw someone's concentration off. Like, that's another huge thing about engineering. Probably reason I didn't do many like interviews or anything back in the day was I kind of wanted to just, I didn't even want people to know I was there. Like, just you're recording, like, oh, did you get that? And when I would talk to people, I would always be like this,
mm.
just recording. And they most of the time wouldn't even know and be like, oh man, I wish we got that. Like, oh, we did. And oh, for real? Cool. So that was, like, part of it. So coming at it as an artist, like, I just came in it as that direction. I'm sure there's plenty of producers that come at it as, like, I was an engineer first. I'm doing it this way. You gotta sing it this way because later on, we're gonna do this, this, and this, where I know how I am, again, from Philadelphia. If you tell me how to do something, I'm probably not gonna like it, and I'm probably not gonna wanna listen to you. Even if you're right, just the fact that you're telling me, "Do it like this," just be like, "Nah, man, like, I'm gonna do it my way."
Yeah,
Um, so, you know, and that's like a whole other art is, you know, the art of suggestion and getting things to go your way and having everyone think it was their way.
idea all along.
Yeah,
Hell
you know,
yeah.
like that was amazing when you thought of how to do that. Like, oh yeah. So, you know, there's
Who
all kinds of like little, and again, it's incremental. I think that's another thing we keep coming back to is it's every little bit counts, you know. It's not
Yeah,
the big like the finished record. You know, it's getting up to that point. Everything below the iceberg.
definitely. Last thing, just because you said something that piqued my interest, people say producer. Most people imagine someone sitting at a console in a Herman Miller chair, just like you're sitting in and I'm sitting in. Um, the Aeron chair, the industry standard.
Yeah.
Uh, but then you said like, "Oh yeah, I just came off tour with Cudi," and I'm like, "Why is the producer on tour? Like, what are you doing? Like, how does that work? Tell me about it."
So with Cuddy, I started as his engineer. I was like
Okay.
I left Good Music as like second engineer or engineer at Good Music. So like Noah was always responsible for Kanye. And then I would just do everything else that would come in. And then we also had some other, as time went on, we added more people to the team. And though it was a very trickle down effect.
Mhm.
But then when, you know, when Cuddy got out of rehab in 2016, and then I believe I was just kind of like coming out of licking my wounds from some bullshit. Um, so when we got together, it was strictly on just engineering. We weren't even planning on doing anything. Um, and it was at Shangri-La. We were originally in the bus, and I was like, "Man, I fucking hate the bus. It's like it's so crowded." And I was like, "How are you gonna put like a star in the bus? Like they're gonna hit their head. Like they're gonna be pissed, whatever." And I think he found out he was gonna be in the bus that night because he didn't show up. And I was like, "All right, cool, whatever." The next day, we're in the main room, and he did show up. And then literally from like that day forward, like we had worked together in the past, when we lived in New York, but like from that day forward in like 2016 or whatever, we've just like went. So I was just like, I would handle any recording and all recording. And then as time got on, again, like with the trust thing, if you look like you're supposed to be there, you're gonna. By the end of it, like I was handling, gear rentals. I was writing music. I was doing production. I was handling splits. I was handling deliverables. I was doing contracts. So it was just like, again, I started somewhere. I was doing something I liked. And I was like, oh, I like that too. I'm going to fuck with that. And then that became my responsibility. And then I was also like, when I was on tour with him, I was helping put between me and Dot, his like A1 day one producer. We'd be putting the sets together, sequencing everything. Like sometimes I'd be triggering stuff live, making sure like all the tunes right. His mom, I'd hear exactly what he heard while we were doing shows. Since I knew what he liked, I could quick, fix things before he even had to like turn around and be like
Mhm.
vocal up or whatever. Um, so and then like by the end of it, I feel like our team had all the had the grasp they needed on the job. And I did feel like confident that it became sort of like a automated process where I didn't really have to be there as much. And that's when I think I saw, like I didn't have to be there, but I was still there. And it
Mhm.
was like, all right, well, like someone else could easily be doing this job. And then I just, I wanted to again progress. I wanted to do more, but I was just stuck with all these responsibilities. Good thing, bad thing, you could always say grass is greener, whatever. But we got another friend, another colleague in the chair who's now taking care of it. And I felt confident leaving and doing this instead.
Yeah. Good for you, man. I appreciate the real talk. Like, you are, as you have always been, hardworking, DIY. I feel like I know you better now, and what makes you tick, man. Like, just building a studio from scratch. Like, I can't even imagine building a house, let alone all the stuff you got going on. Uh, Thank you for your time. Do me a favor and wrap us up. I love to give the last word to my guest. You've already said a lot of really good shit, but summarize it all. Give the people the words of wisdom.
Well, honestly, like first off, I got to thank you because it's been like literally, I think we've known each other for like a decade now
Yeah.
at this point. And like you've always supported all the like random wild shit that I do, and like so that's awesome. And that's another one where it's like confidence, like, oh, there's some dude in Canada likes what I'm doing. Like, why isn't it someone over here like it? So like to wrap up, it's just like, well, I got my project, Just Call Me Bill. Last single comes out December 26th, the day after Christmas, with my buddy Nathaniel. He's in this group Hoko. You helped push my previous single that is called Must Be Nice with Paris, Texas. Um, and honestly, like if anyone has curiosity to do something, especially now in this computer age where you can go on YouTube and figure it all out, just fucking do it. Don't take no for an answer. Do what you want to do. Do it responsibly. Make sure you feel good and everyone around you feels good. Um, and just try and help society progress out of like whatever the fuck we've fallen into today. Because it's not just America. The whole world's going crazy. So just like, I mean, chill out, make some music, read a book, get off the internet, do something. Um, yeah, and that's about it. That's all I got for you.